You're listening to the Icandemy Podcast, the podcast for people who can but don't know how. This is where you get actionable steps to turn vague dreams into blissful realities. And I'm your host, Omoshola Victoria Wolabi. So let's get started. Do you ever think to yourself, I want to be able to impact lives, leave an imprint in this world, but you feel isolated, stuck, unclear on how to show up or get started? If you've answered yes to this question, I want to extend a very special invitation to you to join us on our upcoming workshop, the Courageous Confidence Workshop. This workshop is live, where we get to work together on that call so that you can crack the confidence code, awaken your inner giant, show up authentically, and attract your tribe. Head on over to offers.icandemy.org/courageous. Again, it's offers.icandemy.org/courageous. You'll find the links in the show notes below. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Icandemy Podcast. I hope you had a great week. Let me know by heading on over to www.icandemy.org. There is a voicemail tool on there where you can leave me a message. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your voice. Let me know how your week was. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a very interesting topic. I love to talk about this because it affects everybody. Everybody on the planet experiences this, and it excites me because when we get to understand it, we know how to make it work for us. And that's what I'm about on this episode. Remember, Icandemy Podcast exists to help you turn vague dreams into blissful realities. So we tackle whatever it is that is making your dreams vague in the first place, okay? So on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about what fear is and its role in our life. Exactly. That emotion, fear. I don't know if you listened to a couple of episodes back, The Faculty of the Soul. I actually talked about the soul as a bridge, right? A bridge that connects us from the physical to the metaphysical. There's a bridge there, and I called that the faculty of the soul. If you haven't listened to that episode, please pause this one right now, scroll down, find it, and listen to that episode first. This will make more sense if you've listened to that one. But anyways, what I talked about in that episode was that the soul, the faculty of the soul, is a bridge. The soul is a bridge that connects the physical and the metaphysical. And inside of that faculty, there are three things that happen there that are seated in there. You have the mind, the will, and the emotions, right? The faculty of the soul has the mind, the will, and the emotions. And obviously the mind is the chief. The mind is the boss, okay, in that. But that's not the focus of today. Today's focus is emotions, right? Because we're talking about fear. Now, what is fear? What is fear? Fear is an emotion, right? Fear is an emotion. And what are emotions in general? Emotions are a feedback system that delivers information that drives our actions, our behaviors, and our decisions, right? Emotions are a feedback system that delivers information that drives our actions, our behavior, and ultimately our decisions, right? And fear is one of such emotions, right? So number one, fear is an emotion. Okay. And because an emotion is a feedback system that delivers information that drives our actions, behavior, and decisions, fear can also drive your action, your behavior, and your decision. So I want you to understand that. Now, there's a very beautiful resource. It's called the Plutchik's Wheel of Emotion. If you just Google that, Plutchik is spelled Plutchik. Plutchik's Wheel of Emotion. It just kind of gives you the different emotions that there are and helps you see the two aspects to a certain emotion. So because we're talking about fear today, I'm going to be zoning in on fear. So imagine for a moment that you have an arrow, okay? And in the middle of the arrow, there's a label called fear, all right? Now, on one end of the arrow, it's really sharp and is labeled terror. On the other end of the arrow, it's also sharp, but not as sharp as the other one, and that part is labeled apprehension, and fear sits in the middle. What am I trying to say in essence? Fear as an emotion has two extremes, right? You can either be apprehensive. So apprehension means you're not really afraid, but there's something about this that's not sitting well with you, and you are very cautious. Okay, you're apprehensive about going ahead with this deal, about signing this contract, about getting involved in this relationship. You can't really place a finger, but there's just something that's not quite right. And then on the other spectrum, the poisonous part of the arrow is terror. This is full-blown terror where you are literally shitting your pants, excuse my French, right? You're literally out of your wits. Your mind, you can't even think straight. You are consumed with this fearful emotion called terror. Those are the extremes, according to the plot chick's wheel of emotion, that fear has. But it's not all bad, because if there is fear can operate in good ways as well. So if you trust somebody, right, and you add fear to the mix, the fear in this instance is reverence. So let's look at our relationship with God, for example. We trust that God has our best interests at heart, and we fear him for his power, his might, right? Look at the works of his hands. That kind of fear is reverential fear, and it leads to submission. We submit because we trust and revere God. Okay, family, let's face it. We've all felt pain. We've suffered the losses. You know what it's like to want something so bad, but not see a path to its accomplishment. The question, however, is, do you know how to pick yourself up and move on despite what has happened? This is what I share with you inside of my new book, Good Medicine for the Crushed Spirit, a practical guide to helping you find purpose when adversity strikes. Inside this book, you will find personal stories, relatable biblical tales, and anecdotes that prove you are never alone in your despair. I will inspire you to turn pain, discomfort, disappointment, or setbacks into something positive that works for you. So if you're ready to change your life in meaningful and purposeful ways, get your copy of this book today and let the transformation begin. On the other hand, if we have a certain level of fear and you mix that with an element of surprise, you become in awe, like, whoa, like, oh, this is great, like, wow, right? So we see that fear is not all bad. It can do good works as well. Now, I want you to also understand that fear is a natural, powerful, and primitive human emotion. Fear helps to protect us. Like I said before, it's not all bad. It makes us alert to danger. It prepares us to deal with danger. Look at the example I gave of apprehension. When you're apprehensive about something, like when I go, for example, when I turn on my stove, or when I just finish cooking and I turn off my stove, there's a little red light that stays on. It just tells you as a warning sign, hey, even though I am turned off, I am still hot. Okay? And that puts a little fear, a little apprehension in you not to touch the burner of the stove, because even though you've turned it off, technically, it is still hot and it can burn you. It can hurt you, H-U-R-T. It is hot, H-O-T, and it can hurt you, H-U-R-T, if you are not careful. Fear is what does that for you. Fear is what drives that decision not to put your palm on a hot burning surface, right? It alerts us to danger and prepares us to deal with that danger. Feeling afraid is very natural and helpful in some situations. Fear can be like a warning, a signal that cautions us to be careful. Have you ever walked into an environment before and all of a sudden you feel uneasy, you feel afraid, something comes over you? It's not terror, it's apprehension. That is your emotion speaking to you. That is fear telling you, be careful. Watch out. Even though you don't understand fully what it may be saying, in that moment, fear is a powerful emotion that is alerting us to the danger of our environment. Even though we cannot place a finger, it's absolutely crucial that we take some precautions or get out of that place as quickly as we can. That's one aspect to fear. The other aspect is fear can be unhealthy. when it makes us overly cautious than we need to be, in the sense that it now prevents us from doing things we enjoy or enjoying our life in general. Fear can become unhealthy when we take it to the extreme, when we become so cautious that at the drop of any sound, we are terrified, we've let it consume us so much. But this episode is, I want us to really understand, dig deep into the two aspects. Remember the analogy of our arrow, with fear sitting in the middle and terror on one end and apprehension on the other end. I want us to understand that there are different types of fear, like I've specified. We have that reverential fear. It is beneficial. It is encouraged. It is profound awe and respect, normally in a sacred context. I know in the culture where I grew up in Africa, we were taught to fear our elders, not in the sense that, to be terrorized by them. No, just to have that reverential fear, that respect that this person has been on the planet longer than I have, so they have a better understanding of life than I do, or I honor them. I respect I respect who they are. I see them as a human being, right? But chronic fear, on the other end of the spectrum, is a strong, uncontrollable, unpleasant emotion that is caused by actual or perceived danger or threat. This is the kind of fear that we need to be wary and careful of. Because what does it do? How does chronic fear impact our life? If we leave chronic fear unchecked, it weakens our immune system, no joke. It impairs the formation of our long-term memories, and it can cause damage to certain parts of our brain. It consumes us. It makes us depressed. It isolates us because we're afraid of the world, of society. We don't do things that we enjoy. We lock ourselves away. We hide ourselves away. We're scared of everything and everyone around us. It leads to poor decision-making and makes us reactive instead of proactive. In extreme situations, fear can incite hatred, violence, and oppression. I mean, I lived in South Africa for a while, and there was a time when xenophobic violence broke out, which is xenophobia is a fear of anything foreign, okay? And in this case, it was a fear of foreign human beings, where the locals, or not, I won't generalize because not all locals think like this. Some locals were afraid that the foreigners were getting in the way and taking over their jobs, right? And their source of livelihood. And because of that fear that was left unchecked, that was not fact-checked, it led to an incitement of hatred, and violence broke out. People were killed. People were starting to be oppressed, right? So chronic fear should have no place in our life. No place. Even the Bible gives us an example of what chronic fear feels like. In Habakkuk 3:16, it says, I heard, my heart pounded, my lips quivered at the sound. Decay crept into my bones, and my legs trembled. That's chronic fear. And it starts with one thing. You hear first, and then your heart pounds. Your lips starts to quiver at the sound. Decay then creeps into your bones. Your legs are trembled. When you're feeling like this, I can guarantee you that you will not be in the right frame of mind to make a rational decision or good judgment. We will act out irrationally. And that is what fear is. So in a nutshell, to wrap up this episode, is fear can be healthy and unhealthy. On the other end is fear can be reverential, that causes awe and surprise and wonder and submission. On the other end is the chronic type of fear that we should be alert and careful not to encourage. That is what the Bible calls the spirit of fear. When God says, I have not given you the spirit of fear, that spirit was never given to us. But sometimes we pick it up from the things we hear, the things we see. But we must be at all times on alert to guard our hearts against this chronic type of fear. So the reason fear should exist in our life in the first place is that it should be there to protect us, to alert us to danger, to prepare us to deal with danger. And fear should be like a warning, an alert, a signal that cautions us to be careful. Anything outside of this, that fear becomes unhealthy and stops us in our track. So that is fear and its role in our lives on today's episode. On the next episode, we're going to be continuing this conversation, and I guarantee you it's going to be juicier than today. You do not want to miss the next episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until the next episode, keep on shining. This episode is sponsored by our very own Mogul Mindset Training. Are you ready to embrace new experiences, see opportunities where you thought there was none, and totally surprise yourself? Because you can by unleashing the power of your mind. Mogul Mindset System is a 5-step system that helps you retrain your mind to work with you and not against you, so you can awaken your inner giant, 10x your impact, your income, and become truly unstoppable. The truth is, you, my friend, have a superpower, your creative genius, and I'm here to make that power multiply manyfold so you can get past fear, self-doubt, and finally start working and thriving in your life and business. Ready to unleash your superpowers? I thought you would. Head over to mogul.icandemy.org. That's mogul.icandemy.org to learn more. So there you have it. Thank you so much for listening. And for more content like this, follow us on our social media handles. On Facebook, it's at Icandemy, the Facebook page. On Instagram, it's at Icandemy. Or come say hello over on my personal page. On Instagram, it's at Omoshola Speaks. On Facebook, it's Victoria Wolabi. Feel free to reach out, introduce yourself, say hello. I love meeting you. And if you have any stories that you feel will inspire another woman to action, I want to hear from you. I really do. I love hearing from you. Send me an email to hello@icandemy.org. So it's hello@icandemy.org.